found a tube, and the minute I opened it, the smell transported me through time.
This one's wife. It's pink pancakes time. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. For those of you who are unfamiliar with why I call Harry the Prince of Pink Pancakes, it's this reason. His pink pods, his balls, regularly get a squishing by his handler, this one's wife. It is my way of describing the way that she has his balls in a vice-like grip, and when he does something that she doesn't like, she gives them a good old squeeze so they become flattened to pancakes. And there you are. Harry will have endured another pink pancake moment as a consequence of something that he did on the Columbia tour. To help you understand why this is problematic to this one's wife and then becomes a problem for Harry, I'll explain first of all in a different example involving a narcissist. Let us imagine that a male narcissist telephones his wife. She does not answer the phone. He has sought to assert control over her directly with this telephone call. Her failure to answer wounds him. The wounding is not significant, but nevertheless it wounds him, because it signals to him that he's not important because she's not answered immediately. The reason she has not answered is because she's up to her elbows in cake mix, making a cake for the narcissist. But he doesn't know that. Simply, his narcissism tells him that she is a disgraceful, treacherous, horrible wife who is probably being slipped a crippler by the gardener. This ignites his fury. He tries to call again, his narcissism seeking to assert control over his wife with another direct assertion of control. She doesn't answer. He is wounded again. He then sends a text message. "Where the fuck are you?" Of course, there's no reply because his wife is busy. Rather than him think, well, she's probably busy and she'll get back to me in due course, his narcissism doesn't allow him to think that way. Instead, in that particular moment, because he's been wounded, it tells him she is a traitor, she is treacherous, and creates an image of her being up to no good. She's now become painted black. But he has to have control over her. 3 times he has sought to assert control directly, and that has failed. Accordingly, his narcissism then moves to the indirect assertion of control, which is the second assertion of control, so that the man turns to his colleague and says, "You know what, I've just tried to call my wife twice, and she isn't answering the phone. She's probably out buying shoes or something stupid like that." He smears his wife to his colleague. The colleague replies, "Oh, that's typical. Too busy spending your money while you're grafting." His response provides fuel to the narcissist and shows that he, a non-intimate secondary source, is under control. But also importantly, what it allows is the narcissist to have a subconscious sense of control over his wife, because his colleague and friend has agreed that she's not a very nice person. Thus, control has been obtained and the wounding has been stopped. But that's not the end of the matter. His wife remains painted black. And therefore, when he returns home later that night, his narcissism essentially says, she is painted black and she must be treated as such and punished. The narcissist is not consciously thinking, right, because she didn't answer the phone this afternoon, I'm going to be horrible to her tonight. But rather, he just regards her as an unpleasant person because now she's viewed through the lens of being painted black. As you know from my work, the narcissist only has 2 settings in relation to people. You're either painted white or you're painted black. There are no shades of grey. Thus, when he walks in and his wife says, "Hello, how's your day been?" an innocuous and pleasant inquiry, it is seen through the lens of being painted black and therefore is viewed as a threat to control. "What would you care about how my day has gone?" he retorts. The wife is taken aback. Why is he being so hostile? "What's the matter?" she asks, genuinely concerned. "Oh, now you ask what's the matter. You don't really care about me." His responses are always geared to be nasty to her because she is viewed through the lens of being painted black. And she receives an unpleasant series of responses from him as part of the way that the narcissism effectively causes her to punish her. Thus, the issue of control was achieved earlier to stop the wounding, but that resulted in the wife being painted black. And now, because this is their first proximate interaction since being painted black, she then receives the malign behaviour. And this will continue until such time as she demonstrates that she's completely under control, or that there's an alternative shift in the fuel matrix which shifts her to being painted white. But the fact is, the painting of her being black from earlier on has persisted, so that the treatment that evening results in her being treated in a malign fashion. Harry gets this regularly. One instance where this will have occurred is in relation to the attendance in Colombia, where Harry was seen resting his arm on the back of an translator's chair. This occurred when the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were at the Zapata National Centre for the Arts in Bogota, and they watched a tribal dance show. Harry was seen speaking to a translator repeatedly, and he then rested his arm on the back of her chair. There's nothing untoward in relation to that, but what is interesting is the fact that he's not resting his arm on his wife's chair, which is indicative, of course, of the way that he's feeling towards her. It's not the case that Harry isn't necessarily looking to make a move on the translator, but rather he just feels well predisposed towards her. Keep in mind that this is an individual who's been repeatedly devalued, and therefore when he finds somebody that speaks to him in a pleasant way, who's actually kind to him, he responds to that. Not in wanting to try and slip her a crippler, but just in terms of continuing the conversation with this person, because it's actually a place of safety and relief for the victim. It's often the case that many victims of narcissists will forge a friendship with somebody else to escape the vitriol that is occurring in relation to their main relationship. It might be that they spend a lot of time playing games on their computer, because the computer doesn't shout at them and be nasty to them. It's a place of safe refuge. And given the fact that Harry is in a repeated sustained devaluation, which means away from the public, this one's wife will be treating him badly, it will cause him to respond favourably to anybody that basically shows him patience and kindness, as the translator did in simply having a conversation with him. He's not made of stone, and therefore his response is to continue to talk to her and put his arm on the back of the chair. The problem with this, of course, this wounds this one's wife. In the moment, she's not able to do anything. She can't sit in Harry's lap and slap the translator, because that would damage her facade. And therefore, her narcissism will deal with that by simply deciding, I'm going to ignore what's going on. And thus, because it's her decision to ignore it, that gives her that subconscious sense of control. However, similar to the example I gave you about the narcissist telephoning his wife, Harry is now painted black. Facade management means that she will be civil and friendly towards him in front of other people, but the narcissism will want to treat him badly once that facade management is switched off, which means that later on, when they're away from other people viewing them, it'll be time for her to squeeze those pink pods and turn them into pink pancakes. Indeed, as somebody observed on X, sitting very close to the translator and with his arm around her chair, "Oh dear, Harry will be in for it when he gets home." Another one stated, "I'm sure Harry got the wrath of this one's wife about this." And indeed, that's what have happened. She will have asserted control in the moment, as a consequence of staying in a position of withdrawal from him in that particular instance, that 1 second instance, but thereafter, her narcissism will have been waiting for an opportunity to devalue him away from the facade management once it's been switched off, and it will have been the case that behind closed doors, those pink pods will have got a good old squeeze and a hammering into the pink pancakes. Once again, you're able to understand the dynamic between these two individuals as a consequence of understanding her narcissism. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.